HAVAL Jolion or MG ZST? Which car should you buy in 2022 from the perspective of just a normal owner in Australia who is living in Australia and just trying to choose the best and most comparable cars that are value for money? Interested to hear more of a private owner's opinion? Well, let's talk about it. Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. I'm Dimitri and this is MG Owners Australia, and today I am lucky enough to be sitting in this top of the range HAVAL Jolion Ultra that was very kindly given to me for a test drive by Saturn's group in Homebush. Lovely people, looked after me really well. I'm very grateful for this opportunity to test drive and take a look at this HAVAL Jolion Ultra. We had our MG ZST for about 6 months. There are some things that we mostly love about it, and there are some shortfalls, such as electronics, such as some finishes and this and that. Please, if you just stumbled upon this video, you probably would do yourself a favor to look at my channel and take a look at the videos specifically dedicated to MG ZST. We've spoken enough about it. So how about we focus on Jolion, which I only took for a test drive today. So that's where my interest lies, and we will compare as we go along, yeah? So Jolion, my impressions. Outside the look, I would say I like both cars for different reasons. I like the white shark look and finish, kind of a slightly more pointy, slightly more curvy look of MG ZST, and I like HAVAL's approach to design, where it's a bit more bulky, a bit more kind of a bull shark, a bit of a more kind of dull nose of the car. I like this. It's not boxy, it's far from being boxy, I'm not going to say that, but I like the look of HAVAL for other reasons. So looks are always very subjective, and this is the part that I'm going to acknowledge, but it is really up to you. Honestly, you need to look at both cars. I think they're both kind of pretty in their own way, okay? It needs to be your thing. So I quite like HAVAL. I would not give up or down here to either car. Comparing them to, I'd say both are comparable in their own segment. Size-wise, I think they're also comparable. We are not splitting hairs on this channel ever, which is why I'm not going to compare smidgens of millimeters to millimeters here. I think the size of the car is comparable, but HAVAL, for some reason, Jolion, from outside, on the inside, I would dare say it feels a bit larger. HAVAL feels a bit larger, which for me is great. For my wife, I think she would not mind it. She also likes large cars. She doesn't have a problem with that. I do think, quite honestly, that MG ZST feels a bit cozier, a bit smaller inside, which I'd say is a negative towards MG. If I really had to be sort of a bit pointy and harsher here, I would give a slight advantage to HAVAL. I would say HAVAL's size suits me better and suits a family of, I don't know, couple of adults, one kid, couple of adults, even 2 kids. It's perfectly fine for a small family. It's a 5-seater vehicle. Yeah, so that's my impression. Take it for what it is. As far as design inside, I would say HAVAL feels a bit more modern. HAVAL feels a bit more modern, and you saw my similar comparison of HAVAL H6 to MG HS. I've done it a few months ago as well, when I was considering genuinely HAVAL, and then we sort of looked the other way a little bit. But now we're again just looking at a slightly smaller segment of the cars. Both cars, MG ZST and HAVAL Jolion, both cars do not feel like a proper SUV to me personally. And if this is important to you, please take this into account as well. I can tell you that both cars feel like slightly lifted, slightly bulkier cars, not SUVs. SUVs for me need to stand a bit higher, need to feel a bit more like HAVAL H6, need to feel a bit more like they are lifted further up the road and a bit more boxy, a bit more SUV-like. I don't know how to best explain it. HAVAL Jolion feels like a car, and MG ZST feels like a car. It doesn't feel like SUV, even if it's advertised as a medium SUV, whatever they advertise it as. This is more of this is something where I hope these kind of videos coming from a casual private owner are more helpful than a dealer explanation or something that you read on the website. You need to know how the car feels, and it feels like a car. It doesn't feel like an SUV, which once again, is not necessarily a bad thing. You just need to know what you're buying. Yeah, let's just leave it there. Finishes on the inside. Top of the range MG ZST Essence, when it's clean, is very generously equipped there with the nice stitching, nice leather insets. Everything is very nice in ZST. Even 6 months down the track and heavy use and not particularly careful cleaning all the time, polishing, whatever, it still feels very nice. Everything holds fantastically well. HAVAL looks comparable, slightly more plasticky, if I may say so, but more modern at the same time. What do I mean by that? Well, this is top of the range HAVAL. We have top of the range MG ZST. Here the screen feels larger. The electronics here, which I'm not reviewing here in depth, but electronics here feels responsive and feels more modern, both from visual design and in terms of what is clickable here, what is switchable here. You just take my word for it. I'm not going in depth here in this particular review. This is a high level review. Accessibility of the buttons is pretty good, in my opinion, other than the physical button to mute the radio or music. I don't like the fact that I did not find, maybe I just didn't find it, but right now I'm even looking at it as I'm recording this video and I still don't see it. I don't see it. I don't see a physical button on the steering wheel, like in my LDVD90, like in our MG ZST, that would allow me with one click, very quickly, not even distracting myself from what I'm doing, to mute the sound that comes on when I start the car. Let's start the car right now and let's test it. I might be wrong, but I think that's my biggest beef. I don't like radio coming on when I turn on the car. Let's turn this on and let's see if it comes on. Because at the moment, I'm looking at the screen that is on. Right now, at the moment, electronically, there is a mute button that I had to press here on the screen in order to mute the sound. I could not press it anywhere here. But on the screen, once you are on the radio display screen or whatever, you muted it. If I unmute it right now, I'm just pressing on the screen. The engine is not on, but we can hear the radio. So I do not have a button here to mute it on the steering wheel, but I can mute it right now on the touch screen. Touch screen itself, I like the quality of it, I like the size of it, I like the design of it. I don't mind it. But this accessibility, little accessibility feature, which is certainly not make it or break it, is not there itself. I just have to say it. Let's move on. Steering wheel. Steering wheel wins in MG ZST, hands down, not even a competition. In terms of how it feels in the hand, in terms of how luxurious it feels and looks, in terms of just how it feels in the hand, essentially. This steering wheel is okay. It's okay. It's okay. It's not pure plastic. There is some fake leather stitching here and wrapping, but it's too thin. It's too thin. If I was buying this car for my wife or for myself, I probably would have actually put another layer of more pleasant on the hand cover onto this wheel. Otherwise, this one feels really skinny. It feels really skinny to me. And again, like I already mentioned, the central panel is completely plasticky. Here, where the horn is, the buttons here seem to be functional. I haven't tested all of them. They're okay. Again, from the perspective of a private owner, that's probably enough. And there is no mute button, which sucks. Yeah, it looks to me like the safety features, all of the safety features that you would imagine, such as the situational cameras that come on when you're turning, camera that is a reverse camera. Amazing quality, by the way. Amazing quality of the image here. Reminds me of MG HS, not even ZST. Reverse camera in MG ZST is of a much worse quality. Let's address this straight away. But in the top of the range MG ZST, the camera at least is present, which is a good thing, of course. Now, ergonomics, and you know me, I love my ergonomics. I love when the car is comfortable to drive and comfortable to operate. What do I mean by that? It's not just accessibility of controls, it's also the fact that there needs to be enough of space to put stuff into. Your phone, your wallet, your cup of coffee, other kind of things. Speaking of coffee, and let's start with the low point of this ergonomics. The low point of this ergonomics is the fact that they have 2 cup holders here that I can see for your coffees or whatever. And for some odd reason, so first of all, it's hard plastic, it's not flexible. And for some odd reason, one cup holder is a fully sized cup holder where you can put your large mocha or whatever it is you're drinking, yeah, the large coffee cup. But the smaller one, I have no idea what would even fit in there. It's so skinny and so tiny, I don't think that this is functional. So I'm not a fan of the cup holders here. And let's be honest, as insignificant as it seems compared to engine, compared to other things in a car, look, we drink coffee and we have our water bottles, we have our stuff with us all the time. So not getting this stuff right is a negative. It's a negative, and I don't even have to be nitpicky. It's a negative on the surface, as we would say. It really is out there. I just have to acknowledge it. I cannot believe that they've gotten it so wrong, considering that they got so many things right. Now, there is a contactless in the top of the range HAVAL Jolion Ultra that I'm sitting in, which is about $3,000, I'm being told, more expensive than a Lux model. And we will talk, I will overlay the prices a little bit later, because right now I don't have them in front of me as I'm recording this. They have a cordless charger, wireless charger essentially, which I think is subject to your device, to your phone, whatever you're using, iPhone or certain brands of Android phones may or may not be supporting wireless charging. But if you have this top of the range thing, you would be able to take advantage of wireless charging. MG ZST Essence top of the range does not have wireless charging, let's be clear. It does not have it. So this has it. However, if you want to connect to Apple Carplay and Android Auto, which is supported here in electronics, I'm being told, I haven't tested it, but those things are not wireless. So there is a wireless charger, but to connect to Android Auto and Apple CarPlay in HAVAL Jolion, you would still need to use a cord, just like in MG ZST. So I'm kind of giving you a barrage of this information, but you understand these are the things that come to mind to a normal user, kind of day-to-day user, who would have a coffee cup, who would have a phone that needs charging, who wants visibility. That's it, right? I mean, reasonable power, reasonable accessibility, everything else. Quite obviously here, another modern thing that goes in favor of HAVAL Jolion, unless it's really, really not your thing, is a new modern rotary gear shifter. I would personally have to get used to it. My wife would also have to get used to it. So I don't actually know if it's a positive. I am more used to normal stick that you move. All different companies, LDV, MG, HAVAL, they implement these things very differently, right? In varied ways. But here we have this rotary thing, which basically allows us to turn the... It looks space age, it looks cool, it looks cool. But how functional it is versus very intuitive, boom, I'm just shifting a gear stick and I know where I'm at. I don't know. Like, so jury is out on this one, but that's definitely a more sort of useful thing. I will have to say also, speaking of ergonomics and how useful this front area is, I'm disappointed with the cup holders slash bottle holders, but they do have an interesting second level of a shelf that is less so visible here in this footage that I've recorded, but it is under the gear shifter, if you like. It's a second underneath there. Little shelf there, which is actually not that even little, where you can throw your wallet, where you can put a small bag, chargers, other kind of stuff that comes to mind perhaps. So that's, I think, useful. I actually quite like that they didn't just block it out like all cars do, including MG, all manufacturers do. This whole central bit is blocked out normally, right? But here they made use of that. They hollowed it out and they gave you an extra shelf. And I know that I spoke about this in my review of HAVAL H6 a few months ago. That still back then impressed me, and it still impresses me. It just reminded me of it. Let's very quickly talk about the rest of it. The rest of it is decent, comparable. There are very, I'm gonna say, cheap plastic insets in the doors, which can be scratched and stuff like this, but that's all cars, even very expensive cars comparatively, such as Volkswagen, yeah, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, this, it's very reasonable. But again, we are talking about very, very top of the range thing. And I guess I will talk to you separately, kind of as an addendum to this in-car experience, about the pricing. Because pricing always makes or breaks things at the end of the day, even if you look at two products that are somewhat comparable. And one might be pulling ahead of another tiny bit. At this stage, as I sit in this car and I look at these seats are very comfortable in MG ZST, very comfortable, but they're also fake leather in MG ZST. In MG HS they're real leather, in MG ZST they're vinyl, but they have heating and they're comfortable. These seats are also, by the look of it, not real leather, it's a fake leather. from what I can see. Correct me if I'm wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll accept it. And they're comfortable. They're comfortable, comparable seats as well. They're not as wonderful as bucket seats of MG HS, but they are comparable to MG ZST seats. So 1-1. The rear seats are also very, very comfortable. I also like them a lot. And as far as the headroom is concerned and the leg room in front of, I'm not a very big dude, but when I'm 175 centimeters tall. For me, I feel very comfortable in HAVAL Jolion back seat. I feel reasonably comfortable in MG ZST as well, but I think due to the shape of MG ZST being a bit more curvy from the top, tiny bit more like a shark, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video, I do think that HAVAL benefits from being a tiny bit more boxy. So I do feel like in HAVAL I have a little more headroom and a little more of airspace, which is nice, I would also say here very briefly, what's the final thing that's of interest to us? I'll mention engine very quickly, but short version is it's very comparable. I will mention the boot. What matters to us as private owners, as users of day-to-day these cars? We don't look at them as on pretty pictures, we use them. The boot is very important, okay? I like MG ZST that it has a very deep boot. It goes kind of deep. It's almost like it goes down as you open it. You could like load it up. It's fairly generous. It's fairly good. I was not a fan of MG HS boot. If you look at those videos back then, right? Here, I think the boot is also rather generous. It doesn't go deep. It's a bit more flat, but it looks like it gives quite a lot of, at the very least, comparable. I'm gonna say at the very least comparable to ZST from what I'm seeing. So I wouldn't be disappointed with this boot space. It's not too bad. It wouldn't suit my personal needs because I like urban camping. I like other kind of stuff for which I need a much bigger car. But say for my wife's needs or driving kids around here and there around town, I think Jolion is just as good, if not better, than MG ZST. Quick mention of the engine stuff from the quick test drive that I've done, and I've done a test drive for a change. It drives nicely, nothing rattles, everything is built very nicely. Engine is 1.5 turbocharged petrol engine in this car, and in MG ZST Essence version it's 1.3, if I'm not mistaken, liters turbocharged petrol engine, which also performs reasonably well in the city environments. I did not take this car on the road onto the highway to tell you how good or bad or noticeably different it is on a highway. I can only assume that it's comparable and good enough. It's good enough. And I'm back magically in my LDV D90 after test driving the lovely HAVAL Jolion Ultra. Pricing, finally pricing. So currently, and I've just checked it on the website at the moment of recording of this video, on the website of MG Motor Australia, it says to you that top of the range model MG Essence, the one that we own, but prices have gone up since the time when we bought the car. Right now you can get it for close to 34,000 Australian dollars, 33,990. Subject to you negotiating with the dealer as you always do. So probably you can knock a few bucks off, as you probably can with HAVAL. I haven't started negotiation here, as you can knock off with MG. But that is what the website says. I also have in my pocket now a business card of a very lovely sales manager here at Sutton's Homebush, who very competitively offered me exactly the same price on the top of the range Jolion Ultra that I just test driven. It's also 33,990. Lux is much cheaper, just like MG ZST, I think Excite, which is under Essence, a level under Essence, is also cheaper. So I think both cars, both brands are trying to go neck to neck in terms of staying competitive. There is no reason for HAVAL to be cheaper. If anything else, it's more modern. Electronics appears to be better, but subject to properly evaluating and stuff like this. It's very hard in just a test drive, but I have test driven it and I honestly already shared my impressions. Pricing is neck to neck. Looks are subjective. Subjective look for MG ZST, subjective look for HAVAL Jolion. I like both, like I said. Inside, look, the little things like no physical button to mute radio on the steering wheel of HAVAL Jolion, and the cup holders, the bottle holders, that are not as good, obviously, in HAVAL Jolion. They're just not as good as in MG ZST or my LDV-D90 for that matter, which is not in comparison here. So aside from those little things, how do you choose the best car for you? You go for a test drive. You check the steering wheel. That is something that will stick out to you. Again, that will stick out to you because the steering wheel in HAVAL H6 and Jolion is too thin for my liking. Steering wheel here, if you know how I dealt with steering wheel problems here in LDV-D90, for example, which also was a bit on the thin side and too plasticky for me, I just bought for $16 on eBay, I just bought a nice fake leather, but a nice enough cover, which has been serving me ever since. This is exactly what I would have done for HAVAL Jolion if I was getting a car right now, and I would have forgotten about it. So that problem would have been dealt with instantly. Power of the car, how it feels on the road, it's quiet, it runs really well. Suspension, I would say, of HAVAL Jolion is a little bit on a rigid side, but I don't mind it too much because now I'm comparing it to LDV-D90, which is very rigid. You kind of boom, 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 boom a little bit on the you know, on different bumps on the road. You have to try it for yourself. It's not like MG ZST is smooth as butter and HAVAL is all bumpy. It's not what I'm saying. But you have to feel it for yourself. Power is definitely there, build quality is absolutely there, and you're absolutely getting for $33,990, getting HAVAL Jolion, a lot more than what you'd get at Volkswagen, at Suzuki, at Mitsubishi, other kind of competitive brands that now are cashing in just on the name and just on the presence in Australia. But polish and all that kind of stuff, people say, oh, it's less polished. It's 2022, my friends. Both cars, MG ZST, top of the range, and HAVAL Jolion, top of the range, both cars will give any of these other cars, Suzuki's, Mitsubishi's, I'm not gonna go as far as saying Mercedes and Audi, maybe not, but who cares, right? That's a double the price, triple the price, right? They will give them the run for their money. That is my point. So I sincerely hope that you like this comparison from me. As always, it comes from just a private ownership perspective. I never pretend to be an expert, but I also don't hold back on a very subjective but honest judgment of both cars that I'm looking at occasionally like this. If you like this video, please give it a like and subscribe for more videos, for more similar videos for me, where I will continue talking about LDV, MG, and other brands that we inevitably compare to when we are considering purchase of a new vehicle. Thanks very much for tuning in. I'll be speaking with you again sometime very soon. Bye for now.